All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Above Board podcast. Today, I want to go back to square one, back to the basics, because I think most people don't actually have a money problem. They have a systems problem. And maybe more than that, they have a money psychology problem. I feel like we live in this society where spending is easier than ever. Borrowing is encouraged. Most people feel like they're kind of just like, they're falling behind. Like they're doing okay on paper, but somehow we're still just falling behind or we're not able to keep up. Right now, as of recording this, the national savings rate in America is about 4.4%. And you don't need to hear me tell you that that's not enough for your future. Like I think you probably already know that, especially with, growing concerns for like my generation or future generations around the viability of things like Social Security. And studies also suggest that the average American is fewer than 3 months away from bankruptcy if their income were to stop today. 3 months. That's not because everyone in America is irresponsible. I think it's because society has completely primed us and conditioned us for this buy now, pay later mentality. And honestly, it's working, just not for us. Like, look at, one of the wealthiest people in the world is the owner of Louis Vuitton, worth billions of dollars. And do you know what happened during the pandemic? Luxury brands like Louis Vuitton had soaring profit margins because while some people were using their stimulus money to build their savings or their nest egg, a lot of them were spending. And that's what great marketing does. It benefits the companies, it benefits the shareholders, and it does not benefit the consumer. It just shows how much our financial behavior is driven by psychology, not math. And unfortunately, sometimes we care very deeply what other people think. We buy things to feel successful. We buy things to feel safe. We buy things to feel like we belong. And there's this big difference between acting rich and actually building wealth. Wealth is quiet. It is boring. It is slow. And that's why I want to focus on this one idea today, that most people aren't necessarily bad with money, even though that might be the narrative that they've created. They're just stuck in this chaos and they're disconnected from what spending actually looks like, what it means in their life. And so here's a simple concept that I want to talk through that I think helps and explains a lot. When you spend money on a credit card, your balance is going up, right? So you're literally spending upwards. You swipe, you tap, you click buy now, and nothing leaves your life in real time. It feels kind of painless, but the debt grows. And that's a future you problem. 30, 45 days from now, that payment's due, or maybe worse yet, you're carrying a balance. When you spend money on something like a debit card or from a checking account, your balance is going down. You feel it instantaneously. You are connected to that purchase because it's real, and that's the power of spending down. So it's this idea of how we spend up as a society versus maybe what we should be doing is spending down. And if you think about it, it's kind of like the old envelope system. That's what that was, right? You had these different envelopes for different accounts or reasons of money that you're going to spend, and when the envelope was empty, it was gone, and that's all you had. And it's interesting now because there are studies and there is research that suggests that when people spend on a credit card, or instead of like from cash or from a debit card, they actually are spending about 15 to 20% more over the course of the year. And that's not because they're dumb. It's just because these credit cards are disconnecting you from your purchase. Your future self has to deal with it. And man, do people love their points. People love getting their cash back. But the average credit card balance, I looked this up just before the podcast, the average balance in America on credit cards is roughly between $6,500 to $7,500 right now. And that's coming with, I don't know, anywhere from like 12 to 24% APR. So if you're carrying a balance, but earning 1 to 3% cash back, but you're paying 24% APR, that math ain't mathin'. And I think this is where a lot of people just get overwhelmed and they kind of spiral. If they say, I'm not good at budgeting, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But in reality, I think budgeting, it fails people because they're trying to apply this like static reactionary thing to this chaotic system. Like they want to look at what they spent over the last month or the last 90 days, but that's already done. That's already over. It's not in real time. It's reactionary. It's in the past. And also, like, on top of that, our money's everywhere. We have accounts everywhere. There's transfers happening all over the place. Every credit card has a story. It's like we opened this one up because it was 0% for 12 months. We opened this one up because there was a balance transfer, opportunity. We opened this one up because it gave us airline points. And then you try to put a budget over top of that you're looking in the rearview mirror with, and you wonder why you can't stick to it. It's because budgeting, it's very reactionary, and it's supposed to just, the real idea, and I don't want to use the word budgeting. I kind of want to replace it with the word cash flow. Monitoring your cash flow is supposed to help give you clarity. And so that's something my wife and I, years ago, we sort of adopted this cash flow system in our life that was painfully simple. It was difficult, but it was a simple concept, and it really changed our lives. And our goal was not to become extreme with it. It wasn't to not spend money. It was just to gain that sense of control back. We wanted to feel the confidence that we knew where our dollars were going. And what the system was is effectively built on these 3 different accounts that we focused on, which is our fixed account, our flexible, and our future account. And it's kind of straightforward if you think about it. Like, our fixed is the very predictable stuff. It's the mortgage, the utilities, the things that are coming every month. And this isn't like some perfect spreadsheet. It's just like having the awareness, like, this is coming through every single month, no matter what. Flexible is where, like, life happens, in the margins. It's like groceries and eating out and kids' sports and Target runs, like the daily spending. And I think that is where people really get off track. That's where, this idea of spending up versus spending down becomes real, and we really need to have this accountability system to it. The goal is not to be perfect. It's just to create that awareness and the connection to what you're spending. And then the third account, and this is, like, I think the one that really separates people from feeling stuck to getting ahead, is the future one. So it's planning for these big expenses before they happen, but, like, the ones that we kind of know are going to happen. We're going to have car repairs. We're going to need to buy a car in the future. We're going to go on vacations. Our, insurance premium is going to come due every July. We want to do upgrades. These are the things that, like, I think as you're hearing me say this, like, we all connect to these ideas, like these things that we want for ourselves, but then we handle them for some reason very reactionary based. The expense hits, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we don't have a choice. We got to put it on the credit card. That balance goes up, and then we scramble. And so it's really hard to ever get ahead if we're living that way. So instead, you create this future account where you transfer a little bit each month, and you start to create that separation. You create that tangible planning. It's like we're prepaying for that expense up to the point of purchase, instead of point of purchase occurs, and now we're paying off a credit card balance, and we're accruing interest all along the way. This is what high net worth families do, you guys. It is not, there's no magical formula. It's just applying a little bit of structure to this. And if I'm making this all sound easier said than done, like, I mean, I guess it is. We like to talk about that a lot on the podcast. Like, things we talk about are all easier said than done. It does look a little bit like hard work. It does look like getting your hands dirty with your budgeting and your spending, and having that honest, like, self-assessment in order to do this. So a couple things that I want to mention as I'm coming up on about 8 minutes on this short podcast today. We do this. Like, if you want to join, and at no cost, by the way. Like, we have an online course that we provide at no cost. You can go to YourMoneyStory.app, where we quite literally walk you through this in the Your Money Flows section of our e-course. It's called Your Money Story, and it's a 2 to 3 week self-guided course. It's led by me, where I physically show you how to do this and give you the tools. In addition to that, on February 17th, Raina Fitzgerald and myself will be hosting a live Zoom training on proactive budgeting and cash flow. And so it's February 17th at 12 p.m. We'll put links in the show notes on how to RSVP if you want to join us to that, or you can just text us and we'll send you the link. You can text us at 407-904-8414. But I hope you enjoyed at least some of the perspective of today's podcast, of this idea of spending up versus spending down. And if nothing else, just felt some encouragement by it, because it's not that, like, it's not that you lack discipline or that budgeting is just simply hard. It's that the world that we're kind of in, the society that we're in, is designed for putting things on credit and spending up. And you need a system that brings you back to spending down and taking back that control. So even if just 1 or 2 ideas from this, maybe have helped you kind of have that aha moment or seek a little bit of clarity, that's totally worth it for me. And, because I think once you understand how your money flows, then only then can you focus on the other things, like how to grow your money. Because a lot of times when we talk to people, they come to us and are like, hey, like, what's this thing that we should invest in? What's this thing that we should do? And then I come back and I say, well, do you even know what your savings rate is? The answer to that is no. There's some fundamental things that we need to know and do before we can get to the exciting stuff about our money growth. And nobody can ignore that. That no one's immune to that. We all have to do those things. And I think that's for me the real goal, to be able to find peace and financial freedom and long-term wealth. It starts with understanding how your money is flowing. All right, folks, that is it for today. Thank you for joining me on the Above Board podcast. And again, as mentioned, if you're interested in taking that self-guided course, www.YourMoneyStory.app, or feel free to text us at 407-904-8414 and join our webinar, our live webinar that we're hosting on February 17th. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Above Board podcast, and we will see you next week.